days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to the 49ers versus Houston Texans game preview show. I'm really excited about this one because Kyle Shanahan has said we're going to get to see the starters. I love when we get to see the starters. It means we're going to get to see Trey Lance again. We're going to get to see some of these impressive rookies get out there and play. Now, of course, there'll still be some of these starters that aren't going to play. Of course, I don't expect to see Bosa. That would be fantastic, but so far, this is kind of the trend of what the 49ers have done with Nick Bosa so far. So, yeah, super excited about this game. The dress rehearsal, because 49ers versus Chicago is around the corner. The Bears, the regular season, September 11th, almost here. But for right now, we get to talk about the 49ers versus the Houston Texans. And I think there's a lot of really cool matchups that we can get into and talk about because there needs to be just some decisions. Some of these guys are still battling or roster spots, and we can kind of go through the roster a little bit, talk about some of those battles that are still going on, and can the 49ers ultimately win at some of these position battles? Who are they going to win against the Houston Texans, and how will that help those players make the roster? Really excited about this. So first off, 49ers are going to, of course, be trotting out Trey Lance, and who's going to be with them, I think, is a big question. I think we could see Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, those two guys potentially. I think we might even see Deebo Samuel play as well. The 49ers might come out with a full array of weapons around Trey Lance. No Elijah Mitchell, of course. So expect the running back room to probably consist of Jeff Wilson Jr. and then the rest of the guys that you've seen throughout the preseason. Trey Lance, TDP, Jordan Mason, JaMychal Hasty, the third down specialist. Those will be the guys you expect to see at the running back room. Wide receiver room, of course, Deebo, Brandon Ayuk, Ray McLeod, Jawan Jennings, and electric rookie Danny Gray. Those are the top five guys. We'll see Malik Turner as well. Let's see what he can do on the offensive side because he's battling to be a 6 wide receiver to make this team. The impact that he's had on special teams was felt huge against Minnesota. He has a punch out. Samuel Womack lands on it. So Malik Turner battling to make this team. If the 49ers keep a 6 wide receiver, he looks to be the guy, even though other guys are coming on along the way. Along the offensive line, this is where it gets fun. Spencer Burford has had himself one heck of a preseason. I know the 49ers would love for him to cap it off with an even better performance against the Houston Texans. His running mate, Aaron Banks, in his second year, the second-round pick, has looked really good as well. Clean sheets for Aaron Banks. Consistency, not flash. You're not going to see the same things. Burford's throwing people on the ground. Poe's knocking people, off the screen. But Banks is just getting the job done. So you're going to have Banks, you're going to have Burford, Brendel at the center position, looking to have an absolute stranglehold on that starting center spot with Brunskill being hurt. Will we see Big Trent? I don't know if we're going to see Trent. If we do, it'll be one series. I don't expect it to be more than that. I think they have some decisions that need to be made at the tackle spot anyways. He's going to play at an all-pro level. You don't have to see him. I'll be interested to see if we see any Trent Williams. Kind of think we won't. Mike McGlinchey on the other side. I don't expect them to play Mike McGlinchey. If they do, I'd be a little surprised with him having the knee irritation. Go ahead, let him, recover all the way until that Chicago game. Then we'll see a lot of Colton McKivitz. Colton McKivitz will be playing the right tackle spot. I think he's got right now a lock on the swing tackle job. That means he's a shoo-in to make this roster, but he's got to go out there and play at a high level. And, of course, there's all kinds of offensive linemen along the way. On the defensive side of the ball, we talked about earlier, you're not going to see Nick Bosa. He's not going to play in this game. That would be fantastic if we did, but just looking at the trends, the way the 49ers approach defensive line, you won't see Bosa. From what Kyle Shanahan said, we won't see Kinlaw either. They gave him the bulk of his reps last week, knowing that with travel and all of that, it wouldn't be a good situation for Kinlaw. They're trying to protect him, his leg, and make sure that he stays healthy. So no Kinlaw. Armstead's return to practice. Could we see Armstead? Maybe. I kind of hope they don't play Armstead. I hope they just let him rest, make sure he's ready for Chicago. They have plenty of guys on the interior that they can play, including Hassan Ridgeway, which I want to see more of Ridgeway. I want to see what they do with some of these other guys as well. Givens has continued to play fantastic. And I think that they really do need Givens. And Kevin Atkins made it through cuts. So the undrafted free agent is going to get an opportunity to continue to get some good reps on the interior defensive line, which I think is very important for him, not only for his career potential with the 49ers and in the NFL as well, where he's going to put some film out there. Let's see what he can do on the inside and how many times do they play these edge rushers. It's going to be fun. I think Samson Ebukam will play, so we're going to get one of the starting defensive ends. He'll probably start opposite of Charles Omenihu, who will be in place of Nick Bosa. I think that'll be really fun to watch. It's going to be fun because we're going to have Kamoko Toure and Drake Jackson, Jordan Willis, Kerry Hyder, all these guys getting really big snaps. We're going to have to figure out how this defensive line is going to be constituted. They're going to be 7 edge rushers with 4 interior defensive linemen or 6 edge rushers with 5 interior defensive linemen. I think that's the decision that still needs to be made by the 49ers. Hopefully we'll get a little bit of clarity on this one. Not sure if we will, but so far every one of these guys have had impact plays for the 49ers in the preseason. Of course, week 1, Kamoko Toure. Week 2, Drake Jackson making plays on Ridgeway. Jordan Willis putting pressures on. So it's an exciting defensive line. Then now we've probably get our first look at this linebacker crew that we didn't really get to see in 2021. We only saw it for a split second. Fred Warner in the middle with Azeez Al-Shaair and Dre Greenlaw. Greenlaw being the will linebacker and Azeez playing Sam. I think that's going to be something fun to watch. Seeing these guys fly around going to be great. I don't think we're going to see Charvarius Ward. I'm sorry, guys. Not going to get to see Charvarius Ward probably until week 1. We got to see him at training camp. He was fantastic. As long as he's healthy week 1, everyone's going to be really excited about it. And then in the secondary, Hufanga, Tarvarius Moore will be the starters. I expect. I mean, you could see Odom, but I expect them to get the first run. And then I think somewhere through the game, you'll see Odom come out as well. I think he's a lock to make this team. And that's when you'll see undrafted free agent Taylor Hawkins, who had the interception last week, look good. He's one of my guys. I really like him. I think he's a potential practice squad player. I think you'll see him, and you'll see the newly acquired player Tayshaun Gibson go out there and get a lot of reps as well as he tries to put together some good film to impress the league. Because I think it's going to be tough to make the 53-man roster. It's always a possibility, but it's going to be tough. But let's see what the KG veteran has. I mean, he plays at an all-pro level at times, so let's see what he can do. We know he's going to bring physicality. I'm excited to see what he can do. In the cornerback position, maybe we'll get to see Emmanuel Mosley. I'd love to see that. Of course, Womack, my guy Quantrez Knight, I want to see him playing the nickel. And I want to see what they do with Deommodore Lenoir. Lenoir got some snaps playing nickel. Will he continue to get more nickel snaps? Are they going to play him just on the outside again? I want to see that because I think his versatility is making him a lock to make this roster. That's big for Deommodore Lenoir and big for the 49ers. It means 2 fifth-round picks. Deommodore Lenoir and Samuel Womack are going to help you in the nickel and in this cornerback room. 49ers strike gold in the 5th round. Of course, last year with Tauno Hufanga as well. There's something about that 5th round. Dre Greenlaw, George Kittle. Niners just hit it out of the park. Comes a 5th round pick. So I like overall this talent, the way that they're going to be playing. Now, some of the matchups that we could get in this game, don't know for sure because you don't know if you're going to get some of the key players for the Texans playing. You don't know how they are handling this 3rd preseason game where the 49ers are going to play most of their starters. Maybe the Texans won't. But I think looking at their roster, we could get some really cool looks. For instance, I'm going to start with Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks, of course, as a dynamite receiver, 4.3 speed. He's from my backyard, so I've seen the guy play since he was really young. Fantastic. He's one of those guys that it really is going to give the 49ers young cornerbacks a really good test, whether he's playing on the outside or in the slot. One of the best route runners, and then that speed on top of it. I want to see if Samuel Womack is able to stick on him. That's one of the things I'm most excited about in this game. Can we get Cooks on Womack? Let's see where Womack's development is. Let's see where his potential could be. We'll get an idea of exactly what Womack's about. And I also want to see him on Lenoir as well. I don't care if it's on outside or in the slot. I want to see how Lenoir handles it because Lenoir is definitely looking more explosive. His hips look more fluid. He's been turning and running with these guys, getting in their hip pockets. That's what you want from the cornerback position. Don't allow distance. Don't allow them to have any separation. That way you can go up and make plays. Make it contested. Make it difficult. I think the Niners have the capability in the secondary. But until we get Ward out there, I want to see these young guys go do it, And Ambry Thomas step up and be able to play, against somebody like Nico Collins. I think that's a good matchup for Ambry Thomas, Nico Collins. Those guys should be very familiar with each other. I think that could be an exciting matchup to watch. because that's more what Ombre does. That type of coverage is going to work out for him dealing with a bigger receiver. So I'm kind of excited about some of these matchups that we're going to see along the way. You're going to have other ones. You got Larry Tunsil playing potentially for Houston. That could be fun. Justin Brett plays center. So you're going to have some cool interior matchups there. So they have a pretty talented offense overall, and they have some guys that can go make plays. Plus, you have quarterback Davis Mills. Davis Mills out of Stanford, a local product. 49ers got the best of the Texans last year. Trey Lance took advantage of the Texans and won that football game. It looked really good in the second half. But now we're going to see Davis Mills. How does he look in this Houston Texans offense? How many times can the 49ers offensive line get after him? I think this is going to be a huge fun. This is the first game, of course, of the games of the preseason where I feel like there are actual key matchups to watch because we're going to have, and a better idea of who's going to play. With the Green Bay game, we knew that Green Bay wasn't going to play most of their starters. With Minnesota, neither team was playing starters. I think in this game, we could get starters on both sides, which means there's some key matchups and some things to watch. And I would love to see the 49ers line up Charles Omenihu, the former Texan, and also Samson Ebukam rushing against Laramie Tunsil. I know it'll probably only be a couple series, but that would be fun to watch. Let's see what the development is, because I think somebody like Samson Ebukam is set to have an explosive year. I think he's kind of under the radar right now. 49er fans are talking about Drake Jackson. They're talking about Kamoko Toure. They're talking about Charles Omenihu. Not too many people are talking about Samson Ebukam. The way Ebukam played last year was fantastic. I mean, his end of the season run, his playoff run, the guy was absolutely explosive. And I thought he did a really good job of taking advantage of those one-on-one situations that having Nick Bosa and Eric Armstead on one side of the defense provided. And I think him and, of course, Arden Key were the guys who took advantage of it. Now, will we see the 49ers expand that Arden Key role this week? Kerry Hyder, Charles Omenihu, and those guys playing inside? We might. I think it's less about scheme. 49ers are going to get too much into scheme. Ultimately, you're not trying to go out there and actively win the game. If you execute your base offense and defense, execute the looks that you want to execute, and then you win the game, I think you're excited about that potential. But the Baltimore Ravens haven't been losing preseason games for years. Baltimore Ravens also haven't won a Super Bowl in a long time. So preseason game winning, it does not go ahead and coincide with winning in the regular season. Now, Baltimore is tough every year. I think a lot of times preseason win and loss go to show how good your depth is. I think that's why the 49ers have won 2 games. They have a tremendous amount of depth. But I don't really care if they win this game or not. All I care about is finding out who's going to make this 50 roster and continuing to see certain players, and I'd love to see all of them, but certain players develop all throughout this roster. I think that is something that's really important for the 49ers. Continue to just get more and more chemistry with each other, and a lot of that has to go on the offensive side of the ball because Trey Lance needs to continue to work out chemistry, his timing with George Kittle and Deebo Samuel. That's something that's been coming along. I've seen him make really solid throws to them in training camp. There were some where he would absolutely put it right in the bucket for those guys over the middle of the field. That was an area that I was concerned about Trey Lance during the offseason because we've seen Jimmy Garoppolo live in that area, and Kyle Shanahan's offense produces those opportunities for that middle of the field to be open. The way that you run the zone and then the play action pass off of it, safeties and linebackers have to commit to stopping that run. When they do, it leaves a void over the middle of the field. Trey Lance needed to be successful there. And from what I saw in training camp, he was taking advantage of a lot of those situations. It was way better than we saw last year in his rookie season. And that got me really excited about the potential of the offense because we already knew what Trey could do vertically. And he's provided that again in this preseason. That throw to Danny Gray was absolutely fantastic. And he hit him in stride, a big-time touchdown. That makes people think, oh, I can't run a lurk. I can't run a robber over the middle of the field like I did against Jimmy Garoppolo because if I don't have a safety over the deep half helping my cornerbacks, one of these guys, one of these wide receivers, and that's why it was important to get Ray McLeod and Danny Gray, can beat me over the top. I think that's going to provide the 49ers so many more opportunities in the middle of the field because now you have to worry about them going vertically. We've seen Trey Lance throw those balls outside to Brandon Ayuk and to Danny Gray that are out on the edge with fantastic catches. We've seen Tyler Kroft, the tight end, make a fantastic catch from Nate Sudfeld along the sideline, stretching this defense horizontally, stretching the defense vertically, and opening up a lot of room for Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Danny Gray, Ray McLeod, and then the running backs as well to catch the ball with a running start. And there's nobody better in the NFL, yak-wise, yards after the catch, than the 49ers wide receiver room and tight end room. George Kittle, throw him in there as the yak bros. So Trey Lance being able to operate over the middle of the field is something that's needed, and I think we're going to see that on display. I think Kyle Shanahan is really going to try to get some rhythm early with this offense. I think he wants Trey Lance, this offense, to feel really comfortable knowing they're going to have a break going into the Chicago Bears game. Let's work out some rust. Let's do some of the things that we've done in practice. So look for him early, maybe even a shot down the field. I look for him to get him outside the pocket, some play action, get him outside, get the ball out to Kittle, get the ball to some of his receivers, and let them create in space. I also want to see what they do situationally. When Kyle Shanahan is faced with a 3rd and 2, does he come in? Do they leave Jeff Wilson in? I want to watch that because all throughout training camp and all throughout the preseason so far, now Jeff Wilson wasn't available through the preseason. Kyle Shanahan didn't make him available, but all throughout, we've seen come in those short yard situations. Last week against Minnesota, he gets horizontal, he gets tackled. Will they trot TDP out there? Will they leave Jeff Wilson Jr. in? Or could we get a newcomer like Jordan Mason coming in on short yardage to see what he can do in those? I think that will be interesting. Another thing to monitor from the running back position, with Trey Lance being back at quarterback, how do they line up Trey Sermon with him? If they decide to put Trey Sermon in a shotgun situation, I think that is the most important for him. That's when Trey Sermon, to me, does the best. His running style fits better coming from the shotgun, running read option with Trey Lance. I think that's his best fit in the 49ers offense. I don't know if Kyle wants to have just that kind of set for Trey Sermon in the season, but that might be the best situations for him to use his skill sets the best as he continues to develop. I think Bobby Turner helped get Trey Sermon farther along. I think Anthony Lynn is continuing that process, but he's not a finished product yet. Some of these other guys are kind of catching up to him. EDP and Jordan Mason are more decisive. They're running like they need to make this roster. Mason is running for his life, literally, to make this team. That's what they're trying to do. It's his football life that he's trying to extend. So I think they're playing with a little more intensity. I'm hoping Sermon's going to pick it up as well. Hopefully he'll get some opportunities where there's holes where he can make the right reads and go. I'm curious how Kyle Shanahan ends up using the running backs in which situations. I think they're going to give us an idea. Will it be just JaMychal Hasty on 3rd down? When it's 3rd and 3+, he going to be the guy? I think that could signal the Niners going with JaMychal Hasty on this roster. They start sprinkling in Jeff Wilson, Jordan Mason, or TDP, then JaMychal Hasty's chances of making this roster could slowly diminish. So an idea, and I'll keep a lookout for how these guys are used in Kyle Shanahan's offense, and that could give us an idea who's going to make the 53 and who's not, because it's not even a week now until the 49ers have to cut down. Tuesday, August 30th, they have to cut down, get this roster where they want it to 53 players before the NFL deadline. So there's going to be some decisions that need to be made. The running back room is probably one of the biggest one. Of course, offensive line as well. The news that Jason Poe has been taking first snaps at guard got everyone up in a fury. Oh, Jason Poe might start over Aaron Banks. Something to monitor. I don't think so, because I think Banks has been the model of consistency so far all throughout training camp, all throughout the preseason. He just has been consistent. You haven't heard his name called because he hasn't had any flashy plays. But I think that consistency is what you want from an offensive lineman. You don't want to hear about an offensive lineman. You want his name to never be said. That means he didn't miss a block. That means he just went out there and did his job. That's what an offensive lineman wants. So I think Banks right now is still that guy, but I think they're taking a hard look at Poe. I think they want to see what they got from this undrafted free agent, because he's really developed, and he's in that crap he had, that kick out block where he came and he absolutely whacked the edge rusher, the defensive end that came down. That was nice. That was sudden stop, and he got him to the ground, and it created a lane. JaMychal Hasty made a nice jump cut and got positive yards on it. So I've liked what they did there. We also had a gap scheme situation where they had Sutherland come down on Zakel's guy. Poe deked, went to the second level. Zakel pulled and trapped that defensive tackle. It was great. It created a nice lane for TDP to run. Those things right there are also things to watch, how these guys work with each other, because Poe, Zakel, Jalen Moore, Donovan West, Keith Sutherland, all of them are on the bubble to make this roster. Who's going to end up making it? Because right now, you have your 5 starting offensive linemen. You have Colton McKivitz, our locks. Daniel Brunskill is a lock. That's 7 offensive linemen that are absolute locks to make it. If they keep 8, that means they're only keeping one of either Poe, Nikel, Sutherland, Donovan West. I think you could probably throw West out of that. So I don't think Sutherland makes either. So it comes down to Nikel and Poe. Could they go 9? They could potentially go 9, be able to keep everyone, but it's going to be tough. Or Jalen Moore as well. I forgot Jalen Moore. Whew. So decisions. The only way that those decisions are actually figured out is by playing the game. So I'm excited about that. Overall, I think this is going to be a fun game. It's going to be one of those ones that you're going to see a lot of big hitting early on in this game. It's going to be highly contested. These players know that they're going to have days off before the season starts. So I'm excited to see that. And I'm excited to see how the Texans try to attack this 49ers defense. And if D'Amico Ryans goes up and absolutely goes man across the board sometimes and locks these guys down, he brings blitzes and confuses Davis Mills, or if he just plays it straight, plays it vanilla, and just lets his guys play fast. Curious about all that. I think it's going to be a fun game. I hope you guys are all excited about it too. 49ers versus Texans, the preseason finale. Last time we see these guys before they cut them to 53, and then it's all about Chicago after that. I'm excited about it. Hope you are too. Hope you enjoyed the game preview show. Let me know what you think about everything I said. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and give me a subscription. We've been pushing for 3K. By the time you watch this, we might have hit 3K, but I really appreciate your support. Everyone that comes through, I'm so happy to have you all here all the time. So let me know what you think. Let me know who you think is going to make the 53-man roster, and what are you most looking forward to watching in this game? Do you have a game prediction? I don't know. I do have a wow that's bold though, so I got to go ahead and squeeze that in. I almost forgot.
Wow, that's really bold. Whoa. Whoa. Whoa.
So it's wow that's bold, really bold. I'm going to sneak. Here it is. I think the 49ers defense is going to go absolutely ham on the Houston Texans offensive line. I think this is going to be sack central. Of course, we've had pick city from the secondary. I think the picks are going to continue. But I think the 49ers defensive line is going to produce 5 sacks in this game. They're going to absolutely get after it, which will result in 2 interceptions from the Texans quarterbacks getting rid of the ball. I don't think it'll be all Davis Mills. I think it's going to be some of the backups for them as well. Jeff Driscoll, Kyle Allen. I think those guys are going to struggle a little bit with this 49ers secondary, this 49ers defensive line. 5 sacks, 2 picks. Is it lofty? Probably, but if you're going to go bold, you have to go, wow, that's bold. Hope everyone enjoys the game. Predicting a 49ers victory. Depth is crazy, but the most important thing is you guys can continue to develop. Everyone enjoy the game. Have a really good one. Hope you all enjoyed the show. Catch you on the next one. Remember to stay safe. Remember the right way is always the 49ers.